Alright, what's going on, guys? Here are the 12 things that I've learned about base jumping after a full year. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Salvador Chang and I am a base jumper, I am a wingsuit pilot, and I'm also a skydiver. Now I'm going to read this quick disclaimer before we get into things because I already know how the internet is. This is going to be my truth. This is not going to be the truth. There's a bunch of different opinions out there. So if you don't agree when it comes to the opinions that I give on base jumping, feel free to go ahead and drop some comments below. I'm sure that you guys, the internet warriors out there, are going to fill the comment section. But if you do agree, feel free to let me know as well. I'm sure there's mixed opinions, and honestly, I'm open and I'm willing to hear you guys' opinion, and I want to know what you think about base jumping. These again are just my thoughts, and that's a quick disclaimer on that. Now, before we get into all 12, I'm going to go ahead and say that number 10, in my opinion, is going to be the most spicy, controversial, probably opinionated one out of this. I'm probably going to do a little rant on it. So if I was you, I'd stick around for number 10 because it's going to be juicy. All right, but getting started with number 1, I'm going to go ahead and say that everything is a mental game. When it comes to base jumping, everything is in your head. It comes to life, honestly. Base jumping has taught me a lot about life in general, but when it comes to base especially, everything is a mental game. Whether you think you can do it or whether you think you cannot do it, you're going to be right either way. So before you even step up on the ledge or before you even decide to base jump, you have to decide in your head first and foremost that this is what I want to do before you even show up to the object, because again, everything is a mental game in life. So when it comes to base jumping, and again in life, our thoughts, our minds, our beliefs that we hold about ourselves are going to be the most important thing moving forward. So I want you to keep that in mind. We have this amazing ability to create our own reality, as I have. I literally said I was going to become a wingsuit base jumper, and voila, I literally turned a thought into a reality. So again, I just want you to understand the first point is going to be that the mental picture that you hold inside your head, anything that you can imagine, it's all like your life is all one inside your head before it even happens outside. Like you're inside, whatever you can picture inside, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions will always project your outside reality, and you control your reality. I hope I made that simple clear. So again, if you can conquer your mind, you can do anything. Again, if you can decide in your head that I'm going to jump off of this bridge or I'm going to jump off this building, and in your head it's already done, in reality it'll soon follow that. Of course, what you thought will become a reality. It's almost like magic. All right, so this is going to be point number 2. Why even base jump? For a while there, I was curious about why I was doing it, and I had to sit down and self-reflect a lot on what's the point of even base jumping? Why am I doing it? What's my purpose for base jumping? So first and foremost, of course, I got into base jumping because it's rad. I saw somebody on the internet do it, and I was like, man, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen. It looks like pure freedom, and that's probably exactly what it is. But anyway, I was like, man, this has got to be the sickest thing ever. I looked into it, and it's like less than 0.01% of the world's population is an actual base jumper, like actively. So I was like, man, this is the most extreme sport in the world. It's unique. Not a lot of people do it. It's dangerous. It's illegal. It sounds like all the fun stuff that piqued my interest. So that's why we got into base. Also, it was more of like a challenge to myself. I saw it as something that was bigger than life. I saw it as something that was unbelievable that I couldn't even wrap my head around. And at the time I was in a mental state where I was like, man, I don't know how to turn dreams into reality, but now I'm at the point where I can turn my life, I can do anything. And I firmly believe that, because if I can literally take my life from where it was working a 9-to-5 to becoming a wingsuit base jumper and living the life that I do today, I know anybody else can do it. But with that being said, I love challenges. I just love the journey, the strive, the struggle, the progression. I love seeing it, like the little increments of learning that happen along the way. I just love a challenge. So when somebody says you can't do this, or that's a dream, only the 1% of people do this, it's like, okay, well then I'm gonna be that 1%. Again, I guess my biggest reason for doing this was I just wanted to prove that anything was possible. And through this journey, I've learned that. I've learned that anything is achievable if you put your mind to it and you honestly give 110% to it. Of course, there's a formula and a path to follow that can make your life a lot easier, but I had to learn that along the way. And then last but not least, for point number 2 on why I base jump, this took some deep reflecting and thinking about for a while, but it was often I had to fill this void inside of me. I was seeking proof that I was the man that I thought I was. In my head, I always thought myself to be amazing, great, that I can achieve anything, but before base jumping, before wingsuit base jumping, I didn't really have any proof of it. Yeah, I did okay in school. Yeah, I was pretty good at sports and stuff like that, but in my opinion, those are kind of average things that everybody can do. And then I got shoved into the 9-to-5, and then I was just a normal person. But in my head, I always knew that I was destined for greater. I always knew that I could do more with my life, and I just needed proof of that. And I feel like this is the tangible proof that I have, that I went on this journey, I documented everything that I did, and now I can sit back and say, yes, I can do anything, and here's why I know I can do anything. So more than anything, the reason why I base jumped after doing some deep reflection is because I realized that I wanted solid, tangible proof that anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it, and that's what base jumping has allowed me to do. And yeah, it's amazing, it's fun, it's stoke, camaraderie with the people, but I think more than anything, it's a personal journey that you have to kind of fill this void that you have inside yourself of self-doubt. And that's basically what it comes down to. All right, which brings me to point number 3 that I learned through my course of base jumping. Nobody is special, and I just want to put that out there. Again, I used to look up to the guys who were like the 0.01% before I ever was a base jumper, and I used to be like, man, this is crazy how they're living this lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of get to that point after putting in all the work and you realize these are just normal people. Like, you have conversations with them, and some of them have egos, don't get me wrong, because I mean, this is just the sport that we're in. But a lot of them are just normal people, just like me and you. It's just they put in the work to kind of separate themselves from the average. So again, I just want to put that out there. If you're looking up to somebody, even if you're watching this video, you're looking up to me, I see people all the time where they kind of freak out when they see me. It's like, dude, I'm just a normal person. I just put in the work, and I want to explain to you that nobody is special. I know there are people in base jumping who may think they are special, but I want to promise you that you are not special. You can go in just like anybody else, and I've seen it firsthand. You could be the best in the world and go in, or you could be this guy who's reckless and doesn't make good decisions and then have a long career in base, which doesn't make sense. But again, nobody is special in the life of base. Base does not care who you are. The Grim Reaper is out there looking for anybody and anyone. So with that being said, kind of transferring into number 4, I do want to say that base jumping in itself is special. I haven't found anything else in the world that is like it. Base jumping is unique in the sense that it allows you to face fears in a way that, again, I have never found in any other. Like, you're literally looking death in the face and saying, yeah, I got this, let's do it anyway. I'm ready and willing to risk it all for this moment right here, which is, again, I've never felt anything where my life has been in danger that much. Like, this is real danger. It's funny now because I go to amusement parks and I ride the roller coasters, and I see all the signs of like, if you had this condition, like all these safety briefings, and it makes me want to laugh. And I don't want to be jaded or like egotistical or anything like that, but it's like once you base jump, everything else around you kind of goes dull. Like, all the other excitements that normal people are like, oh man, this is amazing. It's like once you base jump, your dopamine receptors, or maybe just your perception on life change, because now it's like I ride a roller coaster and I'm just like, woo, yay. Yeah, base jumping is special because it's almost like, and I don't do drugs, but it's almost like doing heroin, like the strongest drug that you can think about, or maybe DMT, like doing the strongest drug you can think about, and then going back to marijuana. It's like everything else is not going to be the same. It's not going to feel the same, and that's why, in my opinion, base jumping is super special. There's nothing else in the world like it. All right, moving right into things. Number 5, base jumping has taught me who is really about it and who's not. There's a lot of people who want to stand there and be like, oh man, I'm a tough guy. Again, there's a lot of ego in the sport. They want to be like, oh man, I'm a tough guy, I can do anything. Yeah, put me up to it. I'm a dog ready to fight. It's like, all right, let's see it. And then when you take them to that, or they're on the ground and we're literally looking at the exit point, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, bro. It's gonna be sick. I'm gonna do this. And I'm not trying to judge anybody or talk crap on anybody, but it's like, okay, you're saying all that, and then when we get to the top, you're like, oh no, bro, I don't feel this. The winds aren't right. The sun is in my eyes. You know, my girlfriend was texting me a weird text yesterday. I forgot to vacuum my room. I guess the point I'm trying to make is base jumping can show you who is really about it and who's all talk. Like, there's some people who can talk the talk, and there's some people who just talk a lot of shit and then they don't do anything about it. So base jumping is an easy way to cut all through the noise, because it's like, at the end of the day, when we're at the exit point, your actions are going to prove to me what is and what isn't. You can't really fake base jumping. There's a lot of fake on social media where people act like people they aren't. When you base jump and you base jump with other people, you get to see them in their rawest form. You get to see their biggest fears. You get to actually talk to them when their voice cracks because they're scared because they're about to jump, or when they're fucking trembling. I mean, you've seen it in videos. I tremble, and I'm not trying to be here like, oh, I'm the big macho man. Like, again, you guys see the purest form of me because I'm shitting myself on the exit point. You see me trembling like a little, I mean, obviously I'm trembling because I'm scared, but it's like, base jumping is sick for that very reason, because you get to see the purest form. It's like, I know this is going to kind of take a weird tangent, but it's like in The Dark Knight, or The Dark Knight Rises, or whichever it was with Batman and Joker, where Joker's like talking to the cop, where he's getting interrogated, and he's like, I know your friends better than you know your friends. And he's telling the cop, and the cop is like, what are you talking about? And the Joker is saying when he has a razor blade in the guy's mouth, that he has seen the fear in their eyes, and he knows who's a rat, who's a squealer, who's gonna give out his friends, who's gonna talk shit. It's like you get to see the rawest form, and who's gonna accept death. It's literally the closest, again, it's the closest thing to death that I can realize. Is like you're literally standing on the edge accepting that if this could be your last moment. So you get to see the person in the rawest form, and base jumping is, again, special for that. It's real, it's raw. It's like you can see the truth right there and then. There's no faking that moment, and that's why base jumping is sick for that very reason, because you get to see the purest form of that individual right before they jump. And then again, when they land, it's like the stoke is real. It's like you get to see pure expression of themselves, because at that point, all the walls and all the filters are dropped. It's like we don't care anymore. It's like we just survived death. It's like, I don't care what you think about me, I guess, type of feel. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. All right, so this is number 6, and I'm just gonna put this out there. I believe in the sport of base jumping that egos kill, and I'm gonna give examples on why. So there's a lot of people in the sport who push, including myself. And when I say pushing, I mean they stretch out of their comfort zone beyond their limits. And this can be a good and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword in my opinion. So there's a lot of people who push, and I believe the reason people push and do things that are outside of their experience level is for ego and for views and for social media and things like that. Again, another thing that people do that often bothers me, and I used to do this too, I'm at blame for most of this stuff, and that's why I'm able to reflect and talk to you about it. Not only do they push, but they take it deep. And when I say they take it deep, is like you jump off and you wait to the very last second right before you're going to impact to pitch and throw out your bridle and your pilot chute, and then obviously your parachute. But it's like, what is the reason for taking it that low? So you can get cool points, obviously, so everybody can be like, oh my god, bro, you're so cool, you took it so deep, you got big balls of steel, dude. It's like, okay, that's cool, bro. Like, again, people do it for egos. They just do it for the boost that they get because they know their friends are gonna, I really don't think they do it for themselves. And if they are doing it for themselves, maybe they need to talk to somebody and get some help, because it's like, if you want to die, bro, you can, I mean, not trying to be morbid or anything, but don't do it base jumping. Like, what the heck are you doing? This is not a sport you can play around with. So if you're gonna take it deep and you're gonna push, it's like, the only reason I can think of, besides getting an extra thrill out of it, which is not worth it in my opinion, is just for egos. Another thing that really bothers me in the sport of base when it comes to egos is getting the shot. I used to be one of these guys, so again, I can attest to this, but I saw somebody take it to the extreme, which really made me kind of backtrack and self-reflect. It's like when you're on the exit point and somebody's like, bro, can you take out your phone and can you shoot for me and can you get this shot and can you take out the DSLR and make sure your 360's on? It's like, I'm about to jump off of this building and you want me to make sure that I have my phone out and I'm standing on the edge and I'm getting the shot for you. It's like, dude, what are we here for? Like, are we here for the gram, or are we honestly doing it for you again? So that's where the ego thing comes in. And then flips is another thing that I have problems with. Not problems, but I mean, if you want to do flips, have fun, dude. Do your thing. Like, I've done flips. Like, and again, this is all coming from a place of reflection. I've done flips. Are they for me? Maybe the first one. Like, the first one was like, hey, can I do it? Boom, I did it. Yeah, it was cool. But more so, it's like when you get down from a flip and you see the reaction that other people give you, it's all to feed your ego, I'm telling you. Because during the flip, I just want to explain this to you, my visuals are just like whoosh, 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 and I'll probably try and put something up that kind of explains it. You can't see crap during a flip. So it's like, from a visual standpoint, it's just a big blur. But when you're actually experiencing it and you're going flat and stable and you're not doing any flips, I feel like that's when, A, those are the scariest jumps, and B, those are the most sensational jumps. Like, I actually feel those jumps because you can see the building, you can see the ground, you can see the bridge, the antenna, whatever the object is like, you see everything coming close to you and you can actually feel the danger that you're in. When you're in a flip, you're just worried about your rotation, you're thinking about, all right, where am I at relative to space? So again, back to the point, I'm sorry if that was a weird tangent. I think all of these things, once again, pushing, taking it deep, getting the shot, and then doing flips is just for status and just for a flex. It's just to feed your ego at the end of the day. So the only thing that I want to put out there to the base community is be careful with that, because that can get you in a lot of trouble and you can easily die. And I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not an advocate for it. Yes, I've done them in the past, and I've done a lot of stupid things in the past, and I'm not an advocate for it. I'm just saying this is part of the base community, so just be aware of it. That's all I'm saying moving forward. All right, number 7 is going to be that gear matters. So long story short, the first base rig that I bought, you've probably seen it in some of my videos, was a red Perigee Pro container, and then it was like a clapped out Ace from the 80s. And when I say clapped out, it means old and used and worn out. I just want to put this out there. If you're going to base jump, you only get one shot at it, so make the investment. Don't be cheap. I got my first rig for like $1,200. Super cheap. I was just trying to get into it. I was hungry, you know me. I was just ready to go. Anything, by any means necessary. That is not the smart approach. When it comes to gear, you only get one shot at it. I would suggest getting your gear brand new. And the reason I say that is because I was jumping that clapped out canopy, the Ace, for a while, and I thought it was okay. And then I upgraded recently to, again, a used setup, but a newer used setup, and I could see the difference in my canopy performance like that. My glide ratio, I was going a lot farther than I was on the Ace. The Ace was more sinking in, as the canopy that I have now is the Outlaw. Yeah, it still sinks, but the glide is a lot farther. I can get more distance with the same amount of altitude. So I just want to put that out there. Gear matters. And if you only have one chance to save your life, like, are you going to bring the dull knife to a fight, or are you going to bring the sharp knife to a fight? I mean, obviously the sharp one. So pay a little extra and get the sharp one. That's all I'm going to say moving forward. Gear matters. Buy new, or relatively as close to new as possible, but of course get it inspected by a rigger so that they can look over everything, and just don't cheap out on your gear. You only have one opportunity, one life, especially when it comes to base. Like, skydiving is a bit different, but when it comes to base, get brand new gear. All right, number 8, again, the lessons that I've learned from base jumping is the group you jump with matters. I want to say the group you jump with is almost like a close brotherhood. It's like a family. It's like the people you go to war with. You need to be extremely picky about who you choose to jump with, because again, at the end of the day, this is your life on the line. It's like you guys are going into war. These are your brothers and sisters sometimes that you are literally going to risk your life in front of and for. Another thing about picking who you jump with is, I know that base jumping is an individual sport. It's your jump at the end of the day. You're responsible for yourself. But if I'm jumping with 3 other people, it is also my responsibility to make sure that those other people are going to be safe as well. So that's another thing you have to kind of keep in mind with the people you're jumping with. If you're jumping with someone who's reckless, who doesn't care, who's wild, if something happens to them, if they have a building strike, a cliff strike, if they go in, you are now responsible, because here you are either at the top of the object or at the bottom of the object, having to deal with that trauma and that stress in that situation. So again, who you jump with is extremely important. I just want you to think about that, because in the beginning I thought it was all stoke, like I'm willing and ready to jump with anyone, and whoever will take me to an object I will jump with. But I now understand why people vet other people to be like, hey, how many jumps do you have? What's your experience? Can I see some of your previous jumps? What objects do you have? How many jumps? What are you jumping? All these questions make sense. Before I was like, why are you asking me these questions? I can do it, blah, 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 macho. Ego. Forget all that noise. If somebody sits down with you before they jump and they're like, hey, how many jumps do you have? What are you jumping? How comfortable do you feel on this object? Have you jumped something like this in the past? Now it makes sense why you vet the people you jump with, because again, if something were to go wrong, you are responsible for anybody else in that group, and you have to deal with whatever actions they cause. If they get arrested, if they go in, if all of that comes back to you. So with that, I have some suggestions. This is just what I'm doing, and this is personal preference, but you can do whatever you want to do. Moving forward, I think I'm either going to jump with I'm going to keep my circle extremely small. 1 to 2 close people that I know, that I've gone the distance with, that I've jumped with in the past, that I know they're safe, they check the conditions, everything about them is responsible. These are the only people I'm going to jump with. I'm going to keep my circle extremely small. Or I think this is the best option that you could do. You could just jump by yourself. And this involves radical self-reliance, which I think is important in the sport of base. You have to be able to check your own wind conditions. You have to know the object. You have to know the ins and outs, if the police are watching, what security they have, all of these things. But again, I think the best thing you can do when it comes to jumping with a group of people is just jumping by yourself, or jumping with a select group of individuals that you've already vetted, who have gone the distance, that you know, like, and trust, obviously, and that you're willing to, if anything were to go wrong, if they get arrested or if they die, you are willing to bear those responsibilities for them. Again, I didn't realize how huge of a responsibility that is, so it's extremely important the people you choose to jump with, because they affect not only you, but they affect everything around you. They can be an influence, whether that's negative or positive, on your jump. And then another thing quickly that I want to explain when it comes to that situation about choosing who you jump, again, with negative and positive influences, if you're jumping with people who are reckless and who always like to send it, you can often find yourself, if you're easily influenced under peer pressure, well, they'll be like, yeah, bro, jump, the winds are fine, everything's cool, yeah, let's send a double gainer, yeah, let's do a triple front flip, let's do a freaking McNugget twist, whatever it is. And you can often, if you're with the hype, I used to be with the hype, pulling back, I've realized that sometimes jumping with these types of people, as fun as it may be, and it's addicting, trust me, because it's sick, like seeing them do all this crazy stuff and then you back them up, or you doing all this crazy stuff and now it's like you guys are just always trying to like one up each other. That's a bad idea. That's a recipe for somebody to go in ASAP. Again, you should not, it's not a competition with base. It's like your jump is your jump. You should not be competing with the people on the edge next to you who are supposed to be your boys. Like, that's not how base jumping should be. So I just want to put that out there. And when you're jumping with other people, do not let other people influence your jump. If they're doing a double McNugget twist backflip and you decided on the ground that you were going to do a flat and stable, go up there and no matter what they say or do a flat and stable. And if they make fun of you or they talk shit on you, or if they're like, man, you're a pussy, then it's like, all right, I'm a pussy. I'm going to do this jump. And then you're never going to see me again when I land on the ground, because my life is not worth the 2 cents that you have to say. I thought we were friends. And if we were real friends, you would understand that I'm going to do a flat and stable. You do your double McNugget, McTwist, whatever the heck, and you enjoy that. But let me enjoy my flat and stable. So I'm just gonna put that out there. Don't let peer pressure and influence other people influence you in your jump. It's your jump at the end of the day. You're responsible for it, and whether they realize it or not, they're responsible for it too. So if they're egging you on to do something that you're not comfortable with or prepared for, and you go in, it's not that it's their fault, but they definitely contributed to it. Because I mean, it's like, would I have done that double McNugget twist if XYZ person wasn't there telling me I was a little bitch? Probably not. So it's like, just something to think about. All right, number 9, and I'm gonna make these quick. Number 9 is base jumping has given me an extreme gratitude for life. I'm so grateful, and like, honestly, the life that I live is amazing. It's like a dream. Again, it's like a movie. People make fun of me because I'm like, my life is a movie, but honestly, like, I used to watch James Bond and I used to watch all these spy movies and be like, man, that's out of this world. And now I'm doing these things. Like, I'm literally jumping off of buildings. The only difference between me and James Bond is obviously James Bond knows jiu-jitsu, knows how to fight, knows 17 different languages, and carries a gun. Like, if I had those things and I was jumping off of a building, I really believe I would be the real life James Bond. And the reason I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to be egotistical, is like, my life is almost unreal at this point. Like, the things that I've been able to see, the people that I've been able to meet, the experiences that I've been able to have, I'm extremely grateful for. I sit back and I reflect now on the journey that I've been on, like this whole situation with YouTube and just documenting everything. It allows me to reflect. Nothing else has been so satisfying and been able to humble me and bring me down to earth and just make me so grateful for even the little things in life. I feel like I've not that I beat death, but I escaped death on multiple occasions. And when you come this close to death, it really gives you an appreciation for the little things, like the sunrise, the sunset, the wind in your hair, like the small things. It really allows you to be present, because you know at any given moment when you're a base jumper, and like, people have gone in, like, I've seen it on the BFL, like this, it's any moment can be your last. So it's like, you have to be present. You have to be grateful for every little moment you get. And base jumping allows you to really see that presence and that reality of death in your face. So you have to be grateful for everything that you have. And I'm grateful for base jumping for that. All right, number 10 is rant time. This is the one that is probably gonna wrinkle a lot of feathers. I'm just gonna say it anyway, because this is my truth, and have fun with it in the comments if you feel any different. And I'm gonna read it off my phone because I don't want to miss anything. So base jumping, in my opinion, is selfish, and I'm going to read the definition of selfish. A person, action, or motive lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. Now I want you to answer me this. Who does base jumping help? Other than the base jumper, the person who's jumping off the bridge or the object or the building, who does base jumping help? I've honestly thought about this question a lot, and I've come to the realization, and this is my realization again, that base jumping doesn't help anyone. Base jumping does nothing for nobody except the person who's jumping, which again is why I believe base jumping is selfish. It's a selfish act. Now here's a hot opinion. Best case scenario, if you're going to base jump, be single with no dependents, no kids, so that means no spouses, no girlfriend, no family that cares about you, and no loved ones. It is not fair for them. Base jumping doesn't care who you are and how much experience you have. Again, it's not biased and it has no mercy. So this is why I think base jumping is selfish. If you're gonna jump off of a building and risk your life just for the stoke and the thrill and the comments on social media and the egotistical feeding that everybody's gonna give you, because the second you land, they're gonna be like, oh my God, you're God's gift, you're the best person ever, you're amazing. It's like, dude, if you're gonna risk everything that you have for that, I just want you to realize that it's a selfish act first and foremost. And I hope that you don't have a wife and kids waiting at you at the house. I hope that you don't have a mother and father who love you, a brother and sister who love you, anybody who would be sad and it would negatively impact, or I guess any dependents really. I hope you don't have any responsibilities. I hope that you don't have to bring food to the table and provide for your wife and kids, because what if you were to go in, then those kids would be raised without a father or mother, or they would have to, their mom would have to get 2 jobs just to support the family. You kind of get where I'm coming from. I believe base jumping is selfish. I cannot think of anyone else that base jumping helps besides the person. And even me posting my base jumps on social media was just for, I often battle with it because it's, yeah, for selfish reasons, to be like, yeah, look at the stoke, look how cool I am, woo, #1. And then there's another part of me who's like, nah, I shared this journey because I wanted to inspire other people. And that's the reason I keep making these videos, is because I want to share the knowledge that I have now going through the journey of becoming a nobody to a somebody. It's like, now I want to share what I've learned, and I do this for you guys. It's often a struggle because sometimes I'm like, oh, I do it for myself. But anyway, I think base jumping's selfish. If you disagree, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Honestly, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Please comment below if you disagree and you think base jumping is not selfish and for other people and benefits other people in some way. I would love to hear about it. And another point that I want to go ahead and put while I'm talking about base jumping is being selfish and kind of going on this rant, is I believe that base jumping, besides the stoke and the thrill and the feelings that we get for those 15 to 30 seconds, I believe outside of that, base jumping is pointless. And the reason I think about that is because I think, maybe I think too much, but why do people skydive or parachute in the first place? It's to get from the air to the ground, and it's primarily, I believe it was used for military first and foremost. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna drop the troop stops here, and then they're gonna go do what they need to do, special forces, blah, 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 blah. There was a purpose for them skydiving. There was a purpose for them doing, I'm sure base jumping came of like, as a stoke, as like, oh, what if we can, instead of jumping out of airplanes, we'll jump off of other things. It's like, what's the point of that? And again, in my opinion, I believe it's pointless because there's no real objective. It's not like we're getting on the object. It's not like I've ever stood on top of a building to be like, you know, the point of this base jump is for transportation purposes because I'm gonna use this base jump to get from the top of this building to the road down there in the fastest, most efficient way possible. Never have I ever thought that. Every time I was there, it was for the stoke, it was for the send, it was for the hype, it was for the feelings that I was getting emotionally. So again, I think it's pointless besides bringing those feelings of hype and excitement. And if that's what you're chasing, trust me, it'll give it to you. So that's the only point that I can see from base jumping is the stoke and the feelings. You're never gonna feel that way about anything else. But again, as far as like a purpose, like if it's like for transport, like, let me just put it this way. I'm sure there are some people who base jump or who do things like that, like rappel and all these things, like for special ops missions, but they have a mission. It's like when James Bond jumps off of a building, he's doing it with a purpose to get down there to kill the bad guys. It's like for us, we just do it for the stoke. But I'm sure that these special op military guys are not doing it for the stoke. They're just doing it as a means to an end to get the mission accomplished. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to say by explaining that point. All right, the last two, number 11, I want to explain that I believe base jumping is a spiritual journey. I've kind of touched on this earlier, but there's nothing else like it. It's almost a meditation. I honestly think it helped me find God, whether you believe me or not. There's nothing else in the world like it, and it's hard for me to put it into words, but you go into this almost Zen flow state when you're about to jump off and risk your life and you're not sure what's gonna happen next, because again, base jumping is unpredictable. You can literally do everything right and then still die and go in, and something bad can happen, like a malfunction. It's very interesting like that, and everything happens so quickly. So again, it's almost like a meditation. It's a spiritual experience, especially if you do it alone. Like, you're gonna feel the weight of the situation if you do it alone. And I suggest that if you are a base jumper and you haven't done it yet, you should do a base jump solo, like I did when I was out in Utah. There was something about that base jump that I did with not knowing the area, not knowing the exit point, not knowing the jump. It was all on me. I had to rely on myself. It allowed me a moment without somebody in my ear being like, bro, you hyped on the jump? Like, yeah, what are you gonna do on the exit point, man? Like, yeah. And I'm not trying to be like mean. Like, I love jumping with friends too, but it's like when you jump by yourself, you have this moment to just reflect. Again, it's almost like a meditation to just think to yourself. All these thoughts come into your head. You can watch your thoughts, be an observer. There's nothing else that has put me in the moment, in present moment. It like forced me to be in the moment besides base jumping. And I'm sure you could get a similar experience like rock climbing and things like that. but I haven't rock climbed, so I can't really speak to those things. But again, base jumping, in my opinion, is like a meditative, it's a spiritual experience. There's something special about it. Again, I can't put it to words, and I wish I could articulate my point better, but it honestly helped me become more spiritual. Again, I believe I found God through base jumping, as crazy as that sounds. And last but not least, number 12 is, it's like this saying when it comes to base jumping. It's like the saying when, well, base jumping is very similar to selling drugs, I believe. It's like the saying when you sell drugs. It's like, okay, there's either two ways out of this. You're either going to die or you're going to land up in jail. I believe base jumping is very similar. If you do it long enough, it's inevitable. You're either going to die base jumping or you're going to get arrested. And yeah, you can continue base jumping after that, but it's like, do you really want to? And I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't believe base jumping is a forever type of thing. I don't think it's something you can consistently do for the rest of your life without expecting to die and go in. I think it's one of those things that you get in, you try and absorb as much knowledge as you can and experience and fun and pleasure and whatever base is going to teach you as it can, and then you get out of it. I don't think, again, it's something that you should do for the rest of your life. Maybe this is just me, but I plan on having kids and family and moving on into the future. Am I going to be base jumping when I have a wife, kids, dependents, people, a family who's dependent on me? No, I'm not. It's my responsibility to take care of those individuals. So I believe it would be a shame if I went in, and it would be an injustice to those people that I care about. So again, am I done? Am I ever going to do another base jump? Probably. I probably will do another base jump. Is it going to be as frequent and as actively as I used to be? And am I as hungry as I used to be base jumping? No, I'm not, if I'm being 100% honest. I feel like I've came, I've seen, I've conquered, I've did everything that I wanted to do. And again, I believe it's like selling drugs. It's either you're going to get arrested or you're going to die doing this. So it's like, it's only a matter of time. Is it really worth it for you? And the answer to me is like, I've done everything that I want to do. I'm satisfied with my base journey in my career. I've documented, I've showed it all to you guys. I'm probably going to continue jumping. I'm not going to lie. But again, it's like, I'm going to be a lot more specific and careful and mindful about the jumps that I do. They're going to be a lot more selective. I'm not just going to go on any base jump that somebody invites me on anymore. So I just want to put that out there, that I believe you should be thoughtful. If you're going to go into base, you should do it critically and think about exactly the responsibility that you're about to bear. It's not all stoke and fun when your friend goes in and you see them die in front of your face. It's a different game. All right, so those are the 12 things that I've learned being a base jumper. What did I miss? What do you agree with? What has base taught you? If you are not a base jumper and you were thinking about becoming one, what do you think now? I'm really curious about that after hearing what I had to say. What other questions do you have for me about base moving forward? What other questions do you have for me about life moving forward? I want to be here, and I feel like I have a bunch of knowledge that I just want to share with you guys. So what questions do you have for me? And it doesn't have to be base related. It could be YouTube related. It could be skydive related. It could be life related, about relationships, whatever it needs to be about. What questions do you have for me? Please comment them below, because I want to answer these, and I'm going to go through and read all the comments. And again, where was I right? Where do you agree with me? And where was I wrong? Where don't you agree with me, and why? I would love to hear about it. I'm open for conversation. I'm very open and receptive to comments and outside opinions, because that's how we learn. I'm a big believer in conversations lead to learning. So let's have a civil conversation, and I want to hear about your opinions. So please comment them below. And if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you. I hope that my opinions have helped you learn something moving forward, whether you are a base jumper or are not a base jumper. I hope that these opinions kind of helped you reflect and really understand what base jumping is and the responsibility that comes with it. Now, with that being said, there's going to be a video that pops up on screen. I'm not sure which side. I haven't done this whole talking to the camera thing in a long time, but there's going to be a video here that you can watch of me jumping off a mountain in Italy at a wedding for Filippo and Priscilla's wedding. They wanted to do a base wedding. It was the most magical thing that I've ever done in my life, and I don't think any other wedding is going to top it. So you should definitely check it out, take a watch, and see what I have to say, and then you can actually see what I'm talking about when I talk about base jumping. So go ahead and check out that video now. And then until next time, guys, I love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of the journey. It's been sick. Again, I'm so grateful and thankful for all of you guys. Till next time, deuces.